Now, once you've been able to allow them to realize how they feel when anxiousness starts to rise up, you are not taking them out of the stressor. You're allowing them to experience it and practice on how to deal with it. Let's talk about the third one, which is actually how to start dealing with some of these unpredictable feelings or these anxious feelings that kids have in certain situations. Now, study after study has shown that the best way to handle this is to actually have them fight their own fears, or at least enable them to have the steps and the strategies on how to do that. And one of the best ways to do that is to talk to them about the worst case situation. So many times we develop in our mind this horrible occurrence that's going to happen, and we make it a reality in our own brain. But unfortunately, that's the farthest thing from the truth. So many times kids have, let's say, separation anxiety. And the worst case scenario is that their parents are late, or they don't show up when the child thinks they're going to show up. So what happens? What's the worst case scenario? Well, the worst case scenario is that you can let them know that you will always be there. You're never going to leave them. That is never going to happen. And you may be late. You may be in a situation where you didn't realize that you are not able to pick them up at the time that you were going to, but you're never going to leave them. The worst case scenario is that they're going to just have to stay with a teacher or with a daycare provider or with somebody a little longer. And that is the worst case scenario. So many times, in another example, is if they don't want to ask to play or be involved in a group game because somebody's not going to let them play. And 99% of the time, that's not going to happen. But that 1% of the time, if it does happen, then this is how we handle it. You can say, you know what? You may not want me to play, but I'm going to ask somebody else. Give them the strategies on how to handle it if the worst case scenario happens. To give you an example in my own personal situation, my daughter is great at soccer. One of the first couple games, somebody kicked the ball and hit her right in the face. And from then on, she's always been kind of hesitant about being aggressive to the ball because she is afraid that she's going to get kicked in the face by the ball again. And I told her, we talked about this strategy. Okay, the very worst thing that could happen in soccer, for the most part, it's already happened to you. You've handled it. You were tough. It wasn't comfortable, but you kept playing. And as a matter of fact, you scored a goal in the next couple minutes after that. You built yourself up after that, and you handled your business even after the worst case scenario. So when they understand that they can handle the worst case scenario, and you've gone through the particular processes on how to keep that from happening, and of course that is completely individualized based upon their anxiety. But if you can have them realize, okay, this is the worst case scenario, and how are we going to prevent that? And what happens if it did happen? And it's really not that bad because A, B, C, and D is going to happen. And also you can let them know that their worst fear will never happen. It won't happen, for instance, that you are never going to pick them up, or you're going to get hit by the ball so much that it's going to break your neck or something. I mean, obviously, these are the type of things that kids can come up with that, even though to us it seems completely unrealistic, this is something that they in their head have concocted and that they believe is real. So once you've kind of talked them down from this ledge, and they realize that the very worst thing that they think that could happen isn't really possible, and the things that are possible, you have a plan for, all of a sudden the anxiety goes down. And that's huge because as for children and adults, one of the biggest things that cures and diminishes anxiety is having a plan. Once again, it's the uncertainty that you have that creates anxiety. Once you have a plan and you know what to do in a certain situation, And there may be one situation they're dealing with. Maybe it's multiple situations. You may have to discuss multiple plans. But once they have the plan, then they start feeling confident. And then they feel empowered because now they have a plan on how to deal with this. And once they're empowered, once they're confident, then they realize that they can put this into practice. And once they start practicing this and they realize that they can handle it, then the anxiety slowly diminishes. And you can let them know this will never go away, but now you've got it in a situation where you can handle it and you can take care of it on your own.